Stipko Live with you, coming from New York City. Today, our good pal originally from the Isle of Jersey, but now he's over in Ireland, in County Donegal. JJ Gilmour, how are you, buddy?
Fine, Aaron. How are you, mate?
I'm excited to see you, man. It's been a long time, and you know, I know some odd circumstances took you from one island to the other, but it's great to see you in Ireland, and I just can't wait to hear. You know, you sent over 3 songs. Can't wait to hear them. So we're gonna go right to them in a second. But why don't you tell me what's been going on lately?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working obviously as a performer for many years, but over the last 4 or 5 years, I had this crazy idea about writing a musical.
Right.
And it was even more crazy because it was about a famous Irish football player, or as you call it in America, a soccer player.
Right.
A guy called George Best, who is like God in Ireland, and he's also, and he's like God in Manchester, and he was like God in San Diego, and he was like God in New York City, and so his story was really interesting. They gave him a nickname. He was called the Fifth Beatle, and he was the David Beckham of the '60s in the UK, and his life story was full of tragedy, full of extreme highs, terrible lows, and unfortunately he had an untimely death at the age of 57.
Wow. From what?
Yeah,
what did he die from?
He died from alcohol, unfortunately. But he was he had an amazing story, and I wanted to tell that story in song. So I found 2 other famous Irish playwrights. A woman called Mary Jones, who's had success in both the West End in London and also in Broadway. She had two plays, but she's also a very successful actor here in Ireland and in the UK. And I gave them this crazy idea, and I kind of thought they would maybe laugh at it, but they didn't. They didn't laugh at it, and she thought it was a great idea. Right. And we put a musical together collectively. She wrote the book, I wrote the music and the songs.
Wow.
And it's just finished. It finishes tomorrow evening, and
Wait, the production finishes, or the actual shows finish?
No, the show's finished. It's been on tour. Wow. In England and Scotland, wow, and then Ireland, lastly Ireland. And so far we've had 55,000 people have came to see it, so it's been amazing.
Wow, congratulations, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
You know, I'm 100 years old, but I'm not terribly hip to soccer players from the 60s or football players from the 60s. You know, I remember like Pele, which I think was 70s or something, right? And then of course Beckham of now. But tell me a little bit more about, is it Best, like B-E-S-T? I'm so sorry, yeah, Best.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just George Best, right? That's the...
He was a very successful player. In fact, he played alongside Pele. He played against Pele, right, in the New York Cosmos.
Wow.
And in actual fact, Pele said he was the best player in the world.
Wow.
The guy was immensely successful. He came out to San Diego. He also played for Los Angeles back in the old days when America was welcoming Johan Cruyff and Franz Beckenbauer and Pele.
Right.
All these famous European footballers,
right.
And so he became very successful. And he met his wife in Los Angeles, who was the personal assistant to Cher.
Really?
So yeah. So in the musical, there's all these great characters in the musical. The Beatles are in there, Cher's in there.
Wow.
You know, the Manchester United famous soccer team who won the European Cup. This guy was friends with everybody, you know, wow, and he made David Beckham look like a schoolboy.
All right, so that's kind of one of those things where you'd say, like, would Mike Tyson ever beat Muhammad Ali? You know, 2 generation superstars. Would Beckham take Best, or would Best take Beckham?
Well, you know, they used to say, they had a great old saying. They would say, Maradona great, Pele better, George best.
I love that. All right, so Engineer Julian's going to cue up this first song now. This is just called Georgie. That's your affectionate nickname for him, right?
Yeah, that was his famous nickname, Georgie Boy. Right. And this is the song. This was the first song that I wrote about his life.
All right, let's hear a little bit of Georgie. This is J.J. Gilmour doing Georgie.
Georgie, do you wanna be a fireman? Do you wanna be a butcher? Do you wanna be a cop? Georgie, do you wanna be a boatman? You could work in Harmon Wolfman. This could be the perfect start. Georgie, put that ball down in the kitchen. Wash your hands and stop your itching. Take those boots off in the house. Georgie, if you're gonna take the world on, then you gotta eat your spud, son. George, you're eating like a mouse.
Show me how to score a goal and dummy, 'cause I wanna be the best.
Wow, love this.
Yeah, man.
Love this, man. So, first of all, I got to ask right off the bat, because that's the first thing I heard here at the end. The boy singing. Who's singing?
Yes, it's in fact, the young boy was just here a second ago. He's my neighbour in Ireland, and he was a young kid, and we wanted somebody to sing the part when George was just a boy.
Right.
So I asked him to come and do it, and he did it in one take, which is incredible in the studio. You know,
he just nailed it. What's his name? His first name?
Antonio. His name's Antonio Ria.
All right. Oh, you know what? Where are you born, JJ?
I was born in Glasgow, in Scotland.
Okay. I mean, obviously Scotland, but I didn't know where. I'm bouncing around a little bit because I got so much I want to cover. One of the lyrics in the song is, Georgie, you're eating like a mouse. You know, you got eating. Was there an eating disorder? I mean, you know, what's going on with that? Tell me about that part.
Well, people just make reference to skinny kids in the UK, and if they make a reference to their diet, they always say, "Come on, man, you're eating like a mouse." You know, you
eat your spuds.
To eat. Exactly, eat your spuds. And in fact, that's the next lyric where he says, his father says to him, "George, you're eating like a mouse. If you want to take the world on, son, you've got to eat your spuds, son." You know.
He obviously grew up to be, a strapping lad, I would imagine, right? If he was kicking as much ass as you said.
Absolutely not. He remained like this.
Really? Yeah,
he was. I always used to say he could rise like a salmon and run like the wind. You know, he was a complete athlete.
In the beginning, it sounded a little bit like what's that? Is it Poison or something? That every rose has its thorn, or something like it had kind of like that same riff. I'm going, wow, did JJ go metal on me? You know, what's happening?
Well, I think the thing that I wanted to do, Aaron, was to make it a rock and roll musical. I didn't want it to be George Best in tights. You know, I didn't want. I didn't want people thinking they were coming to see Les Miserables or or one of these big West End shows.
Right.
I wanted to imagine, like, if the Beatles or David Bowie or the Kinks were writing a musical about George Best, then the song should kind of be from that genre. It should be kind of, when David Bowie was doing, pushing through the market stall, so many mothers dying. It would have kind of wrote this real acoustic.
Right.
John Lennon would have been the same. So we wanted the songs are really simple, and they're not the typical songs from a musical. And in actual fact, some of the critics that have been writing about it have said, I think he deliberately tried to make these songs for the era. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to make them sound as if they were down in the 60s. And when you hear a song like Every Rose Has Its Thorn, it's it's just a complete copy of what was going on in the 60s, you know.
Right, right. No, absolutely. I mean, that's, you know, no original music coming out of the 90s, I'm sorry to say, you know, other than yours, of course.
Yeah, even us.
All right, next song I want to play, this is called I Might Give In. Now, I love this title because, you know, it's you know, it's at times it's been my own mantra, you know, I might give in.
Sure.
So, but tell me about the song.
Well, I wrote this song for, you know, we didn't have a great deal of success in America. We did tour. I was in a band called the Silencers,
right?
And we toured America with the Pretenders back in the early 90s, and we probably sold maybe a couple of 100,000 albums in America, but that's nothing,
right?
In the grand scale of things.
Sure.
But we had gold albums in France and gold albums in Spain and gold albums in Switzerland,
right?
And after all that was finished, I went on to have a solo career,
right?
And the solo career, even until now, is going fine. I have a small selective audience. They still come to see me. We still lament about the old days. And then I said at one of the concerts in Glasgow in Scotland, you know what, guys, I'm going to quit. You know, I've had a brilliant time. I'm going to quit. And they all, oh no, I get emails. You can't possibly give in.
Right.
We love you and stuff. So I wrote this song for them just to say that I might give in, but if I have enough emails, then I won't.
All right. This is track 2 off no album other than just our own cue list here. This is called I Might Give In. J.J. Gilmour coming from Glasgow. Let's hear this.
I don't wanna be a rolling stone, 'cause I just want somewhere to call home. I'm sick and tired of being alone. Well, if anything,
wow, I love this. Me and You from J.J. Gilmour. That's really, really I mean, it's so clear and obvious that you're a melody writer first. You know, I love that in songwriters. You ever write in reverse? You ever write rhythm first, or is always melody first?
It's usually melody, but that's just, it can come in any guises, you know. It can come from an old lady walking across the street and she'll say something to you and you go, my God, yeah. I've got to go and write about that. Do
you write it down? Do you run home and record it? Do you call your voicemail and sing it to yourself? What happens? Yeah. Or do you just remember?
Well, actually, a lot of my songs, I used to go horse riding all the time, and I used to write songs on the back of the horse, because that's when I was at my most relaxed.
Wasn't it hard to get, you know, the ink on the hair of the horse there?
No. Ever so slightly, you know. But but yeah, I had my because you know phones have got 50 minutes of memory now.
Right.
So you can stick it straight on your cell and so yeah, I mean most of it either came from there or comes from the toilet. That's where most of the inspiration. That's where you spend all your precious
quality time. Yeah, that's the precious time. JJ, you've sold, you know, I don't know, 500,000 records, right? For through BMG, and you've toured pretty much the entire globe. You know, what brings you back to Donegal? Why are you in Ireland? You know, I mean, you could probably be anywhere. You know, why there?
Well, that's true. I mean, I could be anywhere, and I choose to be where I am, and I'm very lucky. I chose to be here because I had this George Best idea, and it was typically Irish, and I wanted to these Irish writers wanted to work with me.
Right.
So I've been here for 2 years now, and I've really enjoyed it. But it's time to move on. You know, I think the next place I'm going to go to the southwest of France, and that's where the next album will be written. You know, because Donegal's lovely, but it rains too much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, my question was certainly no slight on Ireland. I absolutely adore it.
Me too.
I mean, really, and actually, part of my roots are there. My mother's maiden name is Duty, D-U-T-Y.
Really?
So, now before Ireland, you know, we don't have to get into the story why, but before Ireland, you were in the Isle of Jersey, right? A lot of people don't know about this island now. And you and I think we had a conversation about you telling me something like you can't live on the island unless, you know, you're worth $20 million or more or something like that. What are these details?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a big offshore. It's very much like the south of France, or very much like the British Virgin Islands, or they have the Isle of Man now. And basically, these places are used so that people can have tax relief. People that become very wealthy, you know, guys like Richard Branson choose to live in, you know, in his own little island.
Wow.
And I'm sure he has tax benefits.
But I mean, is that legitimate thing? Is like if you don't have $20 million, you can't live there unless you were born there or something?
Well, you can live there, but you can, there's all kinds of crazy qualifications. You need housing. You have to stay there for 15 years, and if you stay there for 15 years, you can buy property. Unless you have 20 million, then you can come in to the island and be a 11K. But even then, there's stipulations. If you have any criminal records, you can't get in. If you have any bad misdemeanors, bad banking, bad business, there's all kinds of crazy rules. And it is the original Jersey, and it's exactly, New Jersey took its name from there. And they have a big affiliation with New Jersey. And, you know, it's a strange little island. It was a French island to begin with. And then there was all sort of Napoleonic wars going on between the Brits and the French. Right. And now it's a kind of British island. But it's a very unusual little place. It's only 8 miles by 5 miles long. It's got a population of 50,000. And probably 20% of that population probably have £50 million or more in their bank accounts.
Wow. And now the 20 million that it takes to qualify to be there, other than 15 years, do you have to pay the 20 million, or is just you have to have it and hold it there? I mean, or you just need to own it, or do you pay it? Which is it?
Well, what they do is they'll offer you tax exemption from the UK or from. In the old days, like a few years ago in Ireland, they had a big thing in Ireland. That's why U2 remained here. They had a big tax exemption for artists or musicians, and all these artists flocked to Ireland. You know, Simple Minds and U2 and Christy Berg and all these other great artists were staying in Ireland for tax. Basically, they didn't have to pay 40% or 50% or 60% tax, and people don't want to pay that in the UK. If you earn more than 100,000 a year in the UK, you have to pay 50% tax.
Wow.
I mean, come on, you know. So you can imagine someone who's earning 100 million. You know, they're not going to pay 50% of that to the tax man.
Right.
So the Channel Islands and Jersey offer them a deal to go to Jersey. Now they obviously work out a tax situation, but they come in under this bracket, what they call 11Ks, and that's someone who's got 20 million or more. But even still, they only take 3 a year. There's only 3 11Ks allowed in Jersey a year because it's so small.
Wow.
It's too complicated.
So when you left, did you leave like a giant gaping hole that a lot of people wanted to rush to fill, or was it and did you go in with 20 mil?
No, I don't have anything like that. You know, I mean, I'd be lucky for 20,000. But I had my company there. I was in partnership with Ian Woosnam, the golfer, the Ryder Cup captain.
Right.
And he was a partner of mine in my first album, which was where I met you with Miles Copeland in Los Angeles.
Good old Miles. We talk to him often. You know, for everyone, all the arguing and fighting and rioting and you know, drama that occurs with your football teams. You know, the Manchester versus whoever, and red versus blue, and the left and right. You know, I think they'd be a little more pissed off about the tax situation more than, you know, what football team's going to win or you know, what color shirt you're wearing. For God's sake, 50%. My God.
Yeah, but you've got to remember that most people don't earn 50,000 a year, so it doesn't interfere with their lives, you know.
Yeah.
It's only the big earners and the high rollers, you know.
Yeah.
If you start to be successful in the UK, the first thing that you try to do is avoid paying the tax, you know. I mean, the Tory government, you know, Mr. David and his friends have now raised the tax to 50%. It's people don't want to live in places that they want 50% of your money, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as I say, Aaron, it only affects the high rollers. It only affects the big payers, the guys who are paid. You know, maybe some people see that as a good thing.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I mean, I know, you know, you've got the socialized medicine, and you've got the, you know, a lot more sort of civil and social services, as it were.
Sure.
But, you know, there's a flip side to it's a double-edged sword, flip side to both of it. You know, I don't know.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, it's a good place to live in the UK if you get sick, or if you need dental work, or you need eyeglasses.
Right.
Or, you know, all that can be free. You know, for people that can't. If you can't afford it, then the government will give you. You know.
Healthcare. Don't even get me started with healthcare. You know, you brought up Miles a minute ago. You know, he'll probably kill me for even talking about it, but you know, it won't be the first time he's killed me. You know, he had some hip replacement surgery, right? And you know Miles, and I think last time you saw him, he was, you know, limping like a I don't know, a pirate. And you know, he got the hips rebuilt, and originally he wanted to have it done in the UK or in France, you know, out near the castle, and stay there, mainly because either in the UK it would have been it wouldn't have cost anything, or in France, you know, would have cost 1/20th of what it cost here. So he said to the insurance company here, he said, you know, dear unnamed insurance company, I will do this in France for 1/5 or 1/20th of the price. Let's do it there instead of here. And they wouldn't do it, which to me, you know, I just can't imagine what the logic is there. So the hip replacement surgery that could have been 20 grand wound up costing his insurance company like 200 grand.
Wow.
You know, because he's got big hips. But
yeah,
you know, the healthcare thing drive me nuts. All right, so getting back on track.
Sure.
JJ, we're going to go to break in a second, but before we do, if you can sum up, you know, maybe your family life, your personal life, like what's your status right now? For those that want to go to jjgilmour.com and learn a little bit more about you, but they don't see your family life or your personal life on there, tell me what's happening there. I
mean, I'm a boy that's now. I'm 46 years old. You know, I'm divorced. My my ex-wife lives in New York City. She lives up in Yonkers, and I mean, I'm a well-traveled boy, and listen, I've been very fortunate, extremely fortunate to do what I've always wanted to do, which is a lucky situation, particularly if you're as selfish as I am,
right?
You know, and a strong-minded. So yeah, I've had an amazing life. I had my first TV performance when I was 6 years old,
right?
And I'm 47, and I've got a fantastic family around me.
Wait, you said you were 46 before, now you're 47. You just aged in 10 seconds. Speaking of which, we got to go to break. It's Stipko Live with JJ Gilmour. We'll be back in a second with me and you right here on Stipko Live.